Howdy. My name's Jason. This is Diet Toms, and you are watching MicroCinema 4K, the highest quality live stream microscopy in the world. Welcome. I suspect that some of you watching, this will be your first time watching live, or maybe you're watching the VOD. That's cool too. And yeah, you know, I went to bed last night and had something like 1,500 subscribers, and I woke up and I had well over 2,000. So that's pretty crazy. So I figured, well, hey, let's just do a fun little bonus stream. Kind of the format of the MicroCinema 4K is that usually I start off with a prepared slide, and I talk a little bit about the samples that I'm going to look at. To be honest, though, like, it's just stuff I had lying around, old petri dishes, sample jars, and stuff. So we'll skip that. We can talk a little bit about this really incredible slide here. So this is a slide by Frederick Dienelt, who was a German immigrant to the United States. And he had, my understanding is he had basically no formal education or anything like that. And he just got into microscopy and slide making back in the 1800s. So this slide is actually over 125 years old. And this one's really spectacular. This is a 2x objective that I'm using right now. This is a full spider. It's like an inch across. Pretty incredible. So we can, I'll get my face out of the way here, and we can spend a little bit of time looking at this. But I got a lot of stuff I want to look at today. We got some very cool worms as well. Since obviously the worms helped us get to where we are right now. And yeah, just a pretty far out specimen here. I have to confess, you know, I understand that spiders are important parts of the ecosystem and all that. But I'm not personally a fan of having them on or near my person. I definitely think you could call me an arachnophobe. But this one's okay. It's smushed very thin between two pieces of glass. I don't think it's gonna leap out and attack me or anything like that. And even though they do freak me out a little bit, I still can appreciate their form and complexity, like these little serrations there on the claws. That's pretty cool. Yeah, just a wild slide. And this is one I saw, and I was just like, oh, I gotta have this set. It's too cool. Let me see here. Camera's a little. There we go. That's where that should be. And then the camera's a little tilted. There we go. That's close enough. Yeah, without further ado, let's go to our first slide. And we'll stick with the low magnification for a little bit because we have a very large specimen that we're going to check out. I had to use one of my extra deep well slides for this specimen. So let's put our spider back in the box. Don't want to lose our little spider slide. I got about 25 of these really cool bug slides by Mr. Dienelt. Herr Dienelt, as he might have called himself. I don't know. And here we are. Well, I have a black dot. Oh, yeah. Okay, there we go. That makes sense. And here we are. Let's get the ISO down a little bit. What's up, Squeezy? Hey, Teeny. Trick Track. Welcome in, everybody. If you're new to the stream, you know, feel free to pop into the chat and say hello. That'd be cool. So this worm here is one that probably a lot of people are just generally familiar with. This is a Planaria. They kind of have the sort of arrowhead. Hey, Ian Scott. Oh, I recognize your picture from the Discord. Let's see, I'm just gonna adjust this a little bit. It's a little off center. There we go. Yeah, this is a big old Planaria, and I had to really work hard to coax it into the pipette. Howdy, Tim. Welcome in. We have another worm here. This is a catanulid worm, I do believe. We'll go back to our Planarian for now, though. We can zoom in a little bit. Yeah, I think Rotifer is probably a little small for this bad boy. And what I understand, they're maybe, is that it there? Perhaps you can kind of see a something going on right here. These things, their mouth is like really far set back from their head. Kind of a strange setup of the body. And I did put some, we have some little crustaceans swimming around, and we do have some rotifers as well. But in theory, this thing would eat like water fleas and stuff, I guess. So I've given it the option at the very least to get some of that stuff. I put a little extra water on the slide just in case. I made this a little while ago, so could have been a little bit of evap. I'm kind of surprised it's not running away. The difference in appearance between a Suctorian and a Heliozoan has been asked. So, going to. So Suctorians, their tentacles will be kind of more rigid, and they'll be tipped with kind of either like balls or little like almost like cylinders or something. They almost kind of look like hot dogs speared lengthwise. And then Suctorians, their tentacles are just projections of the cell. So they just end in kind of points, and they're a little bit more squishy and bendy. Oh, this area is kind of docked over here. We'll go and check out some of the other stuff on this slide. This little water flea here. And there's a paramecium that just went by. So it's always interesting to see, you know, you hear single-celled organisms and you think, oh, single cells, those must be really tiny, and I guess they are. But this organism here is quite multicellular, and it's smaller than some single-celled organisms. So that's an important thing to understand, that single-celled doesn't have to mean really, really super duper tiny. Oh, and we have a nice Brachionis here. This is similar to the rotifer that we saw sucked out on my my Reddit post. And it's basically the same or similar species of rotifer that we saw sucked out on the YouTube video I posted before I streamed that Twitch stream. All right, we're on the move. That's a cool rotifer there too. And there's another rotifer. One's in the way. And so you can just barely make out the two eye spots on this Planarian. Actually, I guess, are we... Yeah, I think we've actually got sort of the bottom view of this thing right now. I think that's what we're seeing. Yeah, you can see some pigmentation here. You can just barely kind of make out some of the cilia. So these worms are covered in tiny little hairs, and that's kind of how they generate propulsion. Back to the 2x here. Yeah, this thing's definitely a couple millimeters long. It's not an ultra tiny worm. And yeah, to keep it, I have to keep it without squishing it too much. I have to put it on a deep well slide like this. Hi, Deborah. Hey, Squeeze Bunny. Let's see here. What do we want to do next? I don't know if I can get my DIC working on this deep well slide or not. I was kind of expecting this worm to swim around a little bit more, but it seems like it's sort of staying put. But maybe what I can do actually is aggravate it slightly. Okay, use this guy. Let's see. So these things generally do not like light. But I'm not a Planarian whisperer, so it may decide that it doesn't mind what I'm throwing at it right now or whatever. Well, it looks like it's pretty content to just chill here for now. So we'll move on to the next slide here. And this is another deep well slide, but this one is less deep. Oof. And so when you're doing microscopy, and you're using different techniques, often it's it's good to have a slide that is not too thick in order to get like stuff like dark field to work and whatnot. You need a slide that isn't too thick, and the extra deep well slides typically tend to be very thick. All right, here we go. Now we're using differential interference contrast. Hey, what's up? A Hidden World Microbiology, welcome in. So, does anybody know what this thing is? Because I pipetted it up and I was like, this thing looks weird. And now I know what it is. And it's kind of interesting. Anybody have any guesses what this radical thing is? Well, this might be a good clue here. Look at this interaction it's having with this water flea. That's right, Teeny. You got it. It is a Hydra tentacle, and it seems to be actually like operating sort of independently. And I suspect that given enough time, this Hydra tentacle would actually grow back into a Hydra. I don't know that for sure. Maybe we can try to keep it on the slide for a couple days. I don't know how well that'll work, but yeah, this thing is so cool. So we actually do have, theoretically, shouldn't be too hard to find. Let's look. Famous last words. Oh, I see some other stuff. Look at that later. Where is this thing? Sorry, I thought this would be a lot easier to find because it was quite large. I'm pretty sure it has not snuck off the slide. Look at that, we get a cool colony of Ciliates here. I'll have to watch those for a second. Yeah, these things are super neat. I got a bunch of these. There's a lot of them. A lot of these kind of like pom-poms floating around and stuck to the side of the jar and stuff. Okay. Ooh, there's a nice big desmid. Hey, another Euglena acus. One of my favorite little Euglenids with the cute little snout and a flagella. See the flagella out in front there, propelling this thing along. Okay. That's not it, is it? No. It's not in the bubble. Oops. Other way. My goodness. Oh, there goes a midgefly larva, I believe. What the heck? Look at that little dude. Okay, we'll go to the 10x, I guess. Or the the Torx. Okay, so there's our Hydra tentacles. Where's our huge Hydra that I put on here? There it is. Ah, it's hiding on the other side of the bubble. Here we go. And so we have a big old brown Hydra. I got these super long tentacles. And this little water flea here is in a pickle, I would say. Oh, is it gonna? So, fun fact about Hydra: they don't have a butt. They have a mouth, but they don't have a butt. And so when you have a mouth but no butt, your mouth is your butt. And so yeah, we just watched this Hydra poop. It's a little Hydra turd there. And believe it or not, this is kind of a common theme among many little micro animals. Like there are worms like Stenostomum that also only have a mouth. They don't have an intestinal system. They're not donuts like we are. You know, with a tube running from one end to the other. Adding a little extra water to the slide. Yeah, it's pretty funny that we managed to catch that. And then the other notable thing about this Hydra is that there is a smaller Hydra coming off of it. And yeah, this is... Ooh, and I see something else too. To look up the name of that. Yeah, there they are. So these, so Hydra are asexual. They reproduce by budding, and so you'll often find them, especially the large ones, with little bumps or even full other Hydra coming off of them. Wow. We can actually get a really good view here. You see these little spines pointing out of it. Those are nematocysts. Those are stinging cells that fire off and harpoon prey when they get bumped into. And those are the same things that are in sea anemones. So if you've ever like touched the tentacles of a sea anemone, you'll find that they kind of like stick to you, and you kind of have to pull away, kind of rip your finger away. And it's because they are actually sticking to you. They've harpooned you. What is that? Oh, this is that midge larva. Oh, and this is the foot of the Hydra. Wow, check out that, like, all that cellular structure. And then something else that's really cool that we've got here. You might have seen it. I think it's on the other side right now. There it is. Yeah. Look at this little critter. It's where is it? There it is. That's running around on the Hydra. Okay, it's going down. Sometimes it's hard to tell whether things are going up or down. Now it's on the other side. I think there were some more up here. It's super cool. Usually, most of the time when I'm looking at Hydras, I'm looking at the green Hydras. The green Hydras tend to be a little smaller, and so they're kind of easier to get onto the cover glass or get onto the slide without squishing. Yeah, check this thing out. Come on, buddy. Whoa! Oh, there's another one. Oh. So this little thing, these little kind of scaly dudes that are running around on the Hydra, these are ciliates, single-celled organisms that are sort of designed to live on Hydra. They're epibionts of Hydra. You find them on both the brown Hydras and the green Hydras. And actually, remember, that's like the very last ciliate in Kreutz and Feissner. I should be able to look it up real quick here. Yeah, so those ciliates, I believe, are Trichodina pediculus. Trichodina pediculus. Howdy, Dylan. Welcome in. Wow. What a beast. Wonder how it looks. Standard Crulius in the house, also on the Discord. By the way, if you're watching and maybe you've either purchased a microscope recently or are planning to purchase one, you should definitely join my Discord. I think there should be a link in the description of the video here, and there's also a link in the in my about page. And yeah, get on the Discord, and that's a good way to get more direct and specific help regarding your personal needs for a microscope and what you want to do and all that. Yeah, Dr. Funk, I actually played Spore for the very first time. Like when it first came out, I played the creature creator only, and then I heard all the reviews, and I was just like, okay, I think I don't need to play the full game. And then like I finally did play it for the very first time, like a year or two ago, and I was very disappointed that the cell stage is over so quickly. And it felt like it had almost no bearing on the rest of the game. Just watching Hydra tentacles drifting around. Good, Ian. Glad to hear it. And definitely, if you haven't already found it, there is a series of videos called like the Twitch Microscopy Seminar. And I talk all about how to do some cool mods or do some cool like filters and techniques with, you know, basically that microscope. You know, I think one thing that happens with a lot of people is like they'll get a microscope and then they always think that they have to like buy something else to get different effects or something like that. But if you know what you're doing, you can get dark field. You can get even not like this, but like you can get stuff that looks pretty similar to this. You know, here I'm using a 10x objective, and you can get imagery that's pretty darn close to this with just the right filters on a very simple microscope. Wow, these tentacles are wild. They're so long. Whoop. That heard me talking. And it's cool how they like when they stretch out, you can kind of see there's like the nematocysts are like, you know, in little bunches, and there's like this underlying structure that stretches underneath. Okay, Stentor thanks for checking in. Everybody, Stentor also makes microscope videos. In fact, a lot of people that are watching now are microscopists and might have channels and whatnot. Feel free to let other folks in the chat know that you also make content. We are definitely 100% behind supporting other creators, other microscopy creators. I think it's so important that we get more microscopy content made to help promote the hobby. So this is a single-celled algae called Clostridium. It's a something called a desmid, which are these sort of symmetrical little algae. And Clostridium have these little crystal grains that accumulate in the vacuoles on the tips of their cells. And kind of the different species seem to have different, like this one has a lot of them, and like some species just have like one, and everywhere in between, basically. And as far as I know, there is still no scientific consensus on why exactly they do this. And we got a little diatom coming through, probably Navicula. There's some like goop there, interesting. But the other cool thing about desmids and Clostridium especially is they have this like super active cytoplasm, and hopefully we can probably get one in a better view later. It's a little closer under the cover glass, get it with higher magnification, but it's super amazing to watch the goop just pump around in the cell. Really, really cool things. And here's our midge fly larva. Ooh, it's kind of interacting with the Hydra here. But it doesn't seem to be triggering nematocysts. I don't know why that would be. In fact, I haven't seen, maybe I just haven't been looking for them, is often the nematocysts will come off the Hydra and you'll see them floating around. But, yeah. Little, is that Strobidium, I think, is the name of that little ciliate? Whoa. Oh, and I'm using, one. Don't think it's trying to eat it. Yeah. So right now I'm using a 20x objective, and the microscopes that you are normally going to buy they'll have 4, 10, 40, and 100. And almost certainly 100 is going to be your least used objective. And and buy a lot, and it requires you to put oil on the slide, which is kind of a hassle. So one of your first like additional purchases that you might consider is a 20x objective, because that just happens to be a really nice addition. This is wild. This is like it reminds me of the snakes. What is that? The medical insignia. That kind of the intertwined snakes. So Dev Luz asks, I am curious, can you watch an individual Hydra over a longer time and see their life cycle? Or do they die under the microscope? So it's an interesting question. So Hydra are one of these organisms that is like, the thing like kicked away. Oh, and it pooped. Hydra are an organism that is sometimes kind of reported to be practically immortal. I don't really know if individual Hydra die or wear out over time. But I also suspect that if I attempted to keep it long term on a Caduceus, thank you. If I attempted to keep it long term, I probably would end up killing it. And the reason I suspect that is it turns out that it's very difficult to really maintain like an ecosystem. So you'll often find, if you're just starting out microscopy, that like your sample jars don't last forever. Often they'll go through some changes, but eventually they rarely last for tremendously long. It's quite difficult to get like a whole ecosystem going. You can culture like individual organisms, which is also not simple, but you can do it. But maintaining an ecosystem is difficult, and it requires usually like a large volume and basically like a fish tank kind of thing. I suspect that I wouldn't be able to just keep this thing on the microscope slide indefinitely. Like usually there are what you might call like cofactors that you need for organisms to continue living successfully, and those come from the natural environment where they live. When you take them out of that environment, they tend to not do super well. Oh, are we gonna attempt to eat this bad boy? I don't think I've never actually recorded a Hydra eating another organism under the microscope. I've seen it under my stereoscope. I've seen these Hydra capture water fleas and whatnot and gobble them up. Never under my high mag scope. I wonder if this is a pretty big Hydra. It might be kind of overly squished on the slide. I love the little like jackknife kick these water fleas. Yeah. Yeah, I actually work at a company, and what we do is we attempt to basically culture bacteria. Oh wow, look at that! See like stuff pumping through in the tentacle. That's neat. But so we attempt to basically like microculture bacteria, and that you would think like, oh, bacteria, how hard could it be? And it turns out the answer is it can be very difficult to get bacteria to grow. Seems like they, when you don't want them, they're easy, and when you do want them, they can be pretty finicky. Wow. And this is just fun. It's fun that like all these 3 organisms, I guess 4 organisms, all kind of showed up in the same spot here. Makes my life easy. I don't have to do as much driving. I'm gonna add a little bit of water to the cover glass or to the slide. Go. And yeah, I guess that's another thing too. If you're new to microscopy, often you'll be just using like basic flat slides and cover glasses at first, and so you won't actually have very much water on the slide, and so what can happen is it'll start to evaporate, and you'll see that as like a bubble moving across the slide. And so in order to rehydrate the slide, all you need to do is take your pipette and put just a drop of water right at the edge of the cover glass, and that will just wick right into the rest of the slide. And if you do that, you can watch these things for quite a long time. That out, that on. I use my 4X here with this particular condenser. I get a little bit of circular vignetting, but this is basically the view here. This is what we call bright field, and so this is the kind of view that you would get. When you first start out using your microscope, this is kind of what you'll see. What a spaz. Yeah, bright field though, this is still a really nice technique, and something that bright field does. Ooh, that's a cute little worm. That's or maybe not so cute, depending on how you felt about that video. But one thing that bright field does really well, maybe better than any other technique, is show the true pigments of the critters and the organisms. So once you learn dark field and oblique, and maybe even move on to other techniques like phase contrast or EIC, don't forget to check in on bright field every now and then, because it still is a really great technique. Sometimes it can be, I think, the best technique for certain specimens. Let's see, Hydra seem to be about to separate. Yeah, they're close. Although I will say, it can, when you see stuff like that, when you're like, oh, they're about to separate, like, it can be a lot longer. Also, I think this Hydra has maybe attached itself to this wonderfully. It's not always horrifying. Sometimes there are just like funny little things that happen in the microcosmos. Organisms bumping into each other, getting in each other's ways. Stretch, big stretch. Check out this little worm here. This is a pretty cute little guy. think this would be what, like a MicroCinema or something. Like these ones are. I'm definitely not an expert on identifying worms. There is a there's a general microscopy Discord, and the admin of that is a worm person. If anybody wants to go grab the invite link to that Discord and paste it in the chat, that would be cool. And by all means, you're encouraged to participate in both communities. Yeah, this is a flatworm, just like that Planaria that we saw earlier. This is a significantly smaller one. I don't think it's a Planaria. I've actually, and one thing I learned, so the admin's name is Sumi, or their screen name is, I don't know what their actual name is. One of the things that Sumi mentioned is that there are flatworms that actually prey on Hydra. And what's really incredible is that some flatworms will eat the Hydra, and then they will adapt the nematocysts, the stinging cells of the Hydra, into their own bodies. And so all of a sudden the flatworm, after eating the Hydra, becomes a stinging flatworm, which is just absolutely insane. Like, wow. So Ian asks, what's the best way to identify anything you find? Well, identification is definitely like a journey sometimes. Not always a fruitful journey, depending on what you're trying to identify. But definitely a good first thing to do would be to check in on the microscopy subreddit, and there's a sticky post and that I helped to write, and it basically is a compendium of like all the best resources that me and the other mods know of for identifying microbes. And certainly the essentials, the ones that are listed as essentials, those should be either downloaded to your hard drive or bookmarked, because you'll want to be cracking those open all the time. And one that you'll hear me refer to often is Kreutz and Feissner. That's a book called The Sphagnum Ponds of Simmelried in Germany. And it is, one of just the essential, one of the great works on freshwater microbes. So here we are back in differential interference contrast. Everybody's just coming to hang out here. Pick my curler illumination, adjust this a little bit. There we go. Yeah, so Feissner is a big name in protozoology. He was a Ciliates specialist. Unfortunately passed away late last year, I believe it was. Wilhelm Feissner is his full name. But he has a website, and basically practically all of his works were is this thing pooping? Maybe. I think it maybe just spit out some stuff. Feissner made basically like all of his works free for personal use. So obviously that says a lot about who he was and like you know, what he wanted to get out of his life, and I think it's super cool, and ooh, on the run. So yeah, there's that one, and then there's Feisner and Berger, which is that's a handbook to identifying ciliates. That's also very useful to have. And then another guy who's really important to the hobby, I think, is yet another German, Michael Pluka, and he is, I believe, he's like a teacher. I would guess a science teacher, but I don't know for sure. But he's made a website called Pling Factory, and Pling Factory has tons and tons of high quality images of all different species of microbes, and Pling Factory is also really important, and one that I honestly it's a little challenging to navigate, not the least reason being that it's written in German, and so you have to use like Google Translate, and it's a little, sometimes the links work a little funny, but once you start to understand how to use it, it's extremely good. And it's also an important resource specifically for identifying rotifers, and if you do pond water microscopy, you are going to run into very many rotifers. It's interesting. I think this is a slightly different species of water flea than the other ones we've been looking at here. These are also annoying to identify. There's very subtle differences. A lot of them have like similar shapes, and it's like, oh, this one has some spines, and they don't go quite all the way down. Yeah, if you guys don't have the link to the microscopy Discord, I can post it in my Discord after the stream. No big deal. Now, this is a curious little rotifer here. Look at this. I love these shelled rotifers with their little tusks. They're just so neat. And so often, I think basically all rotifers, they'll have this little projection coming off their rear end, their posterior, and that is generally referred to as the foot of the rotifer. Not the tail, but the foot. And the foot is often used to grab onto substrates and or even the slide itself, and kind of anchor the rotifer while it does its little rotifer things. Howdy, David. Welcome in. Oh, we got like 20 folks here. That's cool. Typically, we don't get quite as many people on the YouTube as we do on the Twitch. But we got plenty of people watching the VODs afterwards. And definitely for me, you know, the reason that I do, hey, here's a heliozone for you, Teeny. What's up, Shahab? Welcome in. Let's see, how far underneath are we? We can probably get there. We get to the it is. Give me a sec. So this is an amoeba here, this little circular dude, special kind of amoeba called a heliozoan. And let's see, it's kind of, unfortunately, it's sort of drifted into the debris here, but you can kind of see, hopefully, that it has little projections coming off of it. Little spiny tentacles. Something is jiggling the debris here. And then another thing you might notice that'll help you differentiate these from sectorians is you see that like along these tentacles there are little like nodules. There are little tiny nodules that sort of move up and down the tentacles. Let's see if I can get them in clear view. It's kind of difficult. Maybe we'll find another one. It's a better specimen to look at. Maybe here with the 20x we can do a little bit better. I don't know. Yeah, it's kind of drifted away here. Okay. That'll happen. And we got a water flea here that has got interesting. I wonder, I don't know what those are. Those eggs? They're too green. Why are they green? Hey, Non, welcome in. Yeah, we definitely do have some paramecium in the house. I've seen a couple on this slide, but we have another slide that we haven't gotten to yet that also has some paramecium. Yeah, Marcos is asking how I'm changing the zoom without changing objectives. Yeah, so so basically the video is coming out of the camera at 4K, and then I'm using OBS in my what do you call it? Not the palette, but my canvas is 4K, and then so to zoom 2x, I just changed to a scene where the video is stretched to double the size, and so I'm like changing from one scene to another scene, and I'm just stretching the video frame. And actually, I need to set it up again. It used to be a lot more snazzy. We're still and for those of you that are new here, we're really I'm still kind of getting back in the swing of things. I used to stream on Twitch a lot, and I had a bunch of cool stuff set up there, and then I had to stop streaming due to internet issues with my ISP. But we've gotten that all resolved. And so now I'm kind of restarting, and so we're still. This is not the final form of MicroCinema 4K. In fact, we're in general, I'm always trying to improve what I'm doing. So yeah, please stay tuned. Check in from time to time if you're not here every night, and just see what I'm up to, because there will be other things. So this is not a paramecium. This is some species of hyptric. Hyptrics are often difficult to follow because they have this like they kind of throw the jukes at you. You know, they go one direction and then shoot back in the other. Lost it. All right, go back, find it again. Get used to doing this, by the way. There it is. Oh. Ooh, I don't know if I can follow this one with the 20x. It's just a little too tight. Yeah. There it is. Yeah, this one's just a little too fast. And there's not much debris around to prevent it from going in certain directions, but it's okay. Our rotifer again. Oh, here's a paramecium, bona fide paramecium. This is probably paramecium caudatum, although I have heard from some folks that just because it looks like P. caudatum doesn't mean it actually is. Paramecium, or especially if you can get a paramecium. I mean, you'll find paramecium all the time. And every now and then, a sample, like I said, samples tend to evolve over time. They rarely kind of stay as they are. But one kind of thing that can happen to your samples is they can be like taken over by paramecium. And there'll be so many paramecium in the sample that it actually looks like snow, like a paramecium snow inside. And that's always neat when that happens, because then you can get a whole bunch of paramecium on the slide. Paramecium are a little easier to follow usually. At least they'll slow down sometimes. Yeah, look at them. They are really cool, honestly. Like, we're very lucky that one of the most common ciliates is so interesting to look at. Like a lot of ciliates are just ovals, but paramecium caudatum has this like interesting twist to it, and then it's full of these wonderfully birefringent and colorful crystals. And then you can see the vacuoles inside of it as well. Ooh. Which way are you gonna go? So yeah, definitely. And then I think one thing I've generally been recommending to folks is to pick up some polarizing film on Amazon. It's pretty cheap stuff, and you can convert basically any microscope to a polarized light microscope, and then you too can see the incredible glowing grains of the paramecium. I've actually got some footage I need to actually produce and show. I got some great footage of paramecium and polarized light. Yeah, you know, Non is saying it's kind of crazy how you can see some of the bigger paramecium with your naked eye. You know, our eyes have really tremendous visual acuity. This is, you know, one thing that also happens a lot when I'm like recommending microscopes to people. Is I get a lot of folks that are like, oh, you know, I just want to use a camera. I don't want to use the eyepieces. I just want to put it on the TV and watch it. And that's fine. I mean, some people just have bad eyesight or whatever. And that's also a good solution for like if you have young kids or if you have multiple kids and they can't all look through the microscope at the same time. But I do really highly recommend folks to actually do look through the eyepieces of your microscope, because there's really no definition like real life definition, and there's no frame rate like real life frame rate. And your eyes, generally speaking, are exceptional imaging devices. They have really great low light performance. They have amazing resolution. They have like dynamic contrast. They're very high performance imaging devices. So it would be silly not to use them every now and then. Yeah, Teeny asks if I've ever seen Didinium eat a paramecium. So Didinium are a single-celled predatory ciliate that are pretty incredible themselves, and they specialize in hunting paramecium, and so the answer is yes, I have seen Didinium hunt paramecium before. It was before I got my camera, so I never got any footage of it, but I did spend one night, and this is when I had just had the Journey to the Microcosmos microscope, and I got a slide with a few Didinium and a bunch of paramecium, and I watched the Didinium kind of spiral around in circles, and every now and then run into a paramecium. And one of the things that was so shocking was like how fast they can just absolutely wolf down the whole paramecium. It's pretty incredible. And then I put that slide in the humidity chamber, and the next day when I looked at it, there were very few paramecium and very many Didinium. That's the other thing about Didinium, is they multiply very quickly. Hey, Forbidden Flower. Thanks. Appreciate the kind words. This is just a bubble that unfortunately I got on the slide. I try to avoid these, but it is cool to look at the water droplets, and they can give you some indication of kind of what's going on with differential interference contrast, actually. So you can look at these here, and I will move my analyzer prism. I will start to turn that, and you can see, so now the centers of the bubbles are white, and let me turn down the exposure a little bit here, and the background's white, and you can see kind of on the horizon that there's like orange, there's like yellow, and then orange, and then purple. And as I continue to translate the prism, as those colors start to become in the center of the bubble, that becomes also the color of the background. And here we go. There we go. And so normally when you do differential interference contrast, so here, right in the middle, here's the darkest that it gets. And you can see there's actually a streak going across. You actually shouldn't see the streak when you're using the right lens, but that's another story. But generally, so this is we call extinction. And then we just move a little bit to the side of extinction, so they get a nice gray background. And that's where you typically operate DIC normally. Yeah, it is fun. Actually, bubbles like these were actually one of the very first things I looked at when I got my my DIC kit, and I was like, "Oh my god!" Yeah, see, here's one water flea, and then you can see this one has quite a different thing going on. It's a little more slender, and it's got these sort of striations going down. It's got little spines on the underside, but no spines. Oh, it's got those 3 spines on the back corner there. Those are probably important for identification. No spines on the full posterior there. Oop. This is we smushed this fella here, unfortunately, but this used to be an ostracod, another kind of crustacean that you'll run into pretty regularly. Here's our hydras again. Yeah, this little one's still hanging on. Interesting, it's not really stretching out its tentacles too much. I wonder if they're still forming. So yeah, let's see. Before we leave this slide, let's go ahead and do a little bit of polarized light microscopy and just see how things look. Polarizer down here, and put our polarizer in up top, and then switch to here. There we go. Oh, whoa. Oh, no way. Wow, I didn't actually expect the hydras to have a ton going on. Wow. Polarized light. This is the 4x objective here. Get that going. Just like that. It's not a very strong polarization response. You can see like this larva here has a very strong polarization response, and it's like blowing out the highlights. But this hydra has some crystals inside of it. It has some minerals that are just like the paramecium do, and those have a nice polarization response. That's what's causing it to sparkle. That. Pick the ISO up a little bit. Oops. Here. Yeah, wow. These look so cool. Yeah, and then the other thing that I'm noticing is that I think the nematocysts, so the nematocysts have this sort of kind of bulb structure to their cells, and you can see those have sort of an interesting little reaction in the polarized light. You can see that these circles are divided into like 4 sectors, And there's a very good optical reason for that. I'm not going to try to explain it out loud. I need to wave my hands around a little bit and maybe draw some pictures. But that is just in general, if you're doing polarized light microscopy, expect to see this characteristic little shape pop up very often. You can see even the small little circles have it going on too. Wow. Yeah, polarized light microscopy. I think my regulars are probably tired of hearing this, but since we have new people here, I have to accommodate. Polarized light microscopy is my favorite microscopy technique. And not only is it my favorite technique, but it's also one of the cheapest techniques to implement. And it can be done on any microscope. And wow, these are super cool. These tentacles are wild. So I really highly recommend, if you get yourself a microscope, to also pick up some polarizing film on Amazon. It costs about $10 for a few sheets, and you too can experience the magic of polarized light and maybe gain some intuition about what's going on inside of the organisms that you're looking at, and how they're constructed at the atomic level. All right, good night, Ian. Thanks for joining, and talk to you later on the Discord. Non asks, what microscope kit is this? So my microscope is, there's a Ciliates. So Ciliates have interesting things going on in their cell membranes as well. They have little armor plates that are made of birefringent material. They look cool in polarized light. So the microscope that I use is called the Olympus BH2. It is a microscope that was made throughout the 1980s by Olympus in Japan. And I am of the personal opinion that it is it has a good claim to being the best microscope in general for hobbyists. This is probably a lot more controversial, but I would also claim that there's a good argument to be made that it's one of the best microscopes ever made. Not necessarily because it's optically superior, but just because in total, like what it is, it's really a microscopy system, a family of hardware. And it's just the perfect union of simplicity and performance, affordable, really great microscope. But it does require a fair bit of knowledge to kind of know what parts you need to buy, and you'll have to like hunt on eBay and camp out eBay and do all sorts of stuff. So I don't generally recommend that people just start right from one. I mean, it can be the right choice for some people if you're like really mechanically inclined, and if you've got a good amount of money to spend, so you're not worried if you buy a microscope and then you need to buy like another microscope because you need more parts or something like that. This is not a microscope that I just bought off the shelf. I bought the parts kind of as I've gone forward, and this has really become like a ship of Theseus microscope. Actually, I think maybe since I've begun streaming, maybe the only thing that's stayed consistent is the head. Other than that, I've been changing a lot of stuff. Brazilian Portuguese. Boa noite. That's one I remember. Bom dia. Pau de queijo. Cachaça. Bunda. Those might be all of them. So here we're using polarized light again, but we have a wave plate inserted, and that's giving a directional response to the polarized light. And it's showing that basically the orientation, like so this is a midge larva, so an insect larva. And so you can see it has these muscle fibers inside of it that are strongly birefringent. And when each segment, the muscle fibers are basically identical to other segments, but when they're pointing in a certain direction now, they glow differently. And if we put a little bit of cellophane on top of our wave plate, we can get other responses. And you can see that these little cecilids here, they've got almost no polarization response whatsoever. There's no structures inside of these that are birefringent. No, I've never done confocal microscopy. I think there's actually a guy on Twitch who I think that's Nid for Psi. I'm pretty sure he's got a confocal microscope that he's like home built. Yeah, I'm more of a transmitted light microscopy guy. I like my my light to be delivered simultaneously. A little better for streaming. Wow, look at all this. That's due to the this is kind of a crinkled up piece of cellophane, and so it's got different polarization response depending on how it's sitting. Get some interesting effects here. So yeah, that's kind of one of the other reasons that I really enjoy. Wow, this looks cool, actually. One of the other reasons that I really enjoy polarized light microscopy is that it's wonderful for just like experimenting, finding new looks, new vibes, and things like that. Wow, this actually looks amazing. This looks, it's almost like rendered or something, right? Just so neat. Yeah, just in general, I really like microorganisms and watching microorganisms and all of that. Don't get me wrong. But like, I also, just one of the other cool things about having a microscope is that sometimes you just see really incredible stuff that just optically, oops, we bumped our polarizer, but maybe we can do something else with it. Yeah. Yeah, the microscope is not just a tool necessarily for studying biology, but you can use it to do a lot of other cool stuff too. Is that a little facus? I think so. What are you doing, little guy? Or is maybe it's not facus. Maybe it's some kind of plantlet thing. Take that off. Oh, interesting. It's like a Teeny. This is like maybe like kind of what you were seeing that one time of like maybe this is a little moss spore or something that's just beginning to grow. Thanks, Andy. Thanks for showing up. Let's see. So we don't have any. Oh, hi, Shrimp. Shrimp is asking if we have any shrimp. We don't have any. So we. I do commonly get. I guess we call them scuds, right? Scudaria. We get those little shrimps pretty commonly, and they are also really, really incredible to look at in polarized light. But I don't have any on any of the slides tonight, but we've certainly will have them in the future. Okay, Teeny, thanks for checking in. Always good to have you on the stream. Man, that's pretty. I got that. I didn't expect it to get less dark. So anyway, I think now would be a good time to switch over to our next slide. Oh wow, this still looks super neat. Wow. But yeah, we can go check out some different critters. And this slide I prepared a little bit differently. So let's get this bad boy off of here. Hey Tim, nope, we are doing polarized light microscopy, aka the best microscopy. And oh yeah. So this is a sample from an older jar that I've had lying around for a while. And it has a lot of these little tiny, I don't know if they're tiny little ciliates or flagellates or what, but they have little birefringent crystals in them, it seems, because they are glowing. Actually, what happens if I put a wave plate? Okay, so they stay pretty much, well, let's see, what if I turn down the light a bunch? They stay pretty much just light and dark, seems like. Okay. Jay is asking what was the big brown one? That was a brown Hydra. Related to sea anemones. What that is. Also, polarized light can be kind of mysterious. Familiar organisms can look different. Like, what's going on with this thing here? What is that? What is this hazy specimen? How are the 20x objective? Hey, look at this. So, what we have here is a rotifer. This is a deloid rotifer. Now, rotifers are primarily divided into two different categories. There's the deloids and the monoconauts. And the deloids are entirely female. And so what do? Well, they lay eggs inside of themselves. Basically, they generate an egg, and then the egg hatches inside. And what we can see here are two eyes on kind of the nose of this rotifer. And then we can see two more eyes inside of it. And that is the daughter clone of this mama rotifer squirming around inside. So this is a pregnant rotifer, and we get to see the baby as well. Okay, Jay, Face, thanks for tuning in. I was wondering when I pipetted up these rotifers if they might have little babies. Let's go ahead and switch back to differential interference contrast, and we can get a closer look, more detailed look. That in there, and I guess we're at the 20x objective. And one thing I did with this slide is I very deliberately prepared it to be very thin. And so here's the top of the slide. This is where it's the underside of the cover glass. See, there's bacteria on it. Then I'm going to focus down through, and there's the bottom. So there's like just barely enough space for things to be in between. And it turns out that that's really important for getting the most detailed imagery that you can get, especially with higher magnification objectives. And so one thing that happens a lot of times is that folks will get a new microscope and they'll see something and they'll want to zoom in on it, and they'll switch to the 40x, and the 40x it just never looks good. Maybe they can't even get it in focus, or it just looks bad. And typically that's a result of just not preparing your sample very carefully, or looking at a specimen that kind of is too deep on the in the slide or something like that. Very carefully putting a little droplet of water here, because when you have a sample that's prepared so thin, it can very easily dry out and squish your specimen. I'll switch to the 40x now. And we can start to see, now we can see what these little things were. They're little flagellates. Let's get our curler back in alignment as well. And yeah, so someone's asking, what are the little red dots? The little red dots are the eye spots of the rotifer. These things have some basic vision. And then you see the two eye spots there of the baby rotifer. And what will happen is that this rotifer will eventually shed its cuticle, basically shed its skin, sort of like a snake does. And it'll leave the baby inside of that cuticle. It can go off and live its own life. Another appendage that you might notice here is this curious little thing poking out of the top of the rotifer. You can see it's got some hairs on it. And that is called the dorsal antenna. And it's basically a sensory organ. So it helps this rotifer probably sense when something is swimming nearby. And then we can see here, look at that, almost looks like a trilobite fossil. That is the mastax of the baby rotifer. So all rotifers have this sort of kind of grinding structure called a mastax. I think it's all rotifers, if not almost all rotifers. And then the mastax itself is made up of these hard things called trophy. And so this is sort of, as food comes in, I think the mastax kind of grinds it up. And so that's the mast-ax of the daughter. And then you can see here, this is the mast-ax is sort of in a side view, and the daughter is peeking out. And we can see actually, well, and then extra, you might be able to see a little organ there spinning around. And that is called a flame cell. Maybe because it looks sort of like a flame flickering. I look at it and I see like a barbershop pole or something like that. Or maybe it's because of the shape of the cell in general. Hard to say. The flame cell is basically a little organelle that pumps excess water and waste products out of the rotifer. So it connects from inside the rotifer to a pore outside the rotifer. So in other words, that is how the rotifer pees. Oh. It's pretty amazing. Look at this. The baby is is almost sort of like a glove just going up into the snout of the mama rotifer. And you can see here, if I defocus just to the top, you can kind of see the cuticle of the rotifer and how it sort of folds up. There goes the paramecium. And in the back here, so this rotifer has sort of like a kind of a sheath of debris, it seems like, that it carries with it. Yes, here's our paramecium coming in for a cameo. Pretty beautiful, I would say. Pretty incredible organism. You can see that those eye spots, they're just like, you know, they're not really well put together eyes. You know, they don't have lenses or anything like that. They're just kind of a collection of little photosensitive pigments. They probably get the job done. Maybe we can't see all this stuff here. Okay, here's our our paramecium again. Hello. Who invited you? And then these little guys. I'm pretty sure there's a page in Kreutz and Feissner that has like a bunch of these. There's a bunch of these that look very similar. I've flipped through this book so many times. I have this just sense of like, oh, I remember like figures were laid out just in this particular way. Yeah, here it is. So those little guys appear to be cryptomonas. Cryptomonas. Or maybe, oh, actually, no, so they're cryptomonads. And then I think these ones that are white are Chilomonas. Chilomonas oblonga. I think that's right. They look very similar at the very least. Two flagella. One little birefringent crystal. Yeah, Squeeze Bunny, I'm glad you're enjoying. I think, like I said, I'm still kind of getting back in the swing of things here. And I really do feel like every stream I'm capturing, like I'm starting to figure out like how to reliably like get good material, you know, get my slides set up so that I really get some great specimens and great imagery to go with it. Maybe we'll take a second here to do some phase contrast imagery. This out of there. There we go. The phase contrast, small bacteria will show up nice and dark. And it's interesting, these little Chilomonas show up bright, so they're a little bit bigger. They oh, there's a Collapse. There's our Paramecium. Oh, we got a few Parameciums showing up now. Paramecium can look pretty cool in phase contrast. Phase contrast is a technique which primarily is used to look at very small and or thin, nearly transparent objects. And so for really big, thick stuff like this rotifer, often it's not the best choice. You can see we don't really get great imagery of like what's going on inside of the rotifer. And that reason I do kind of caution people to, sometimes people get like really fixated on getting phase contrast, and I think it's important to just understand like what it is. It can definitely generate some cool imagery, but you should sort of understand what its limitations are, what it's good for and what it's not good for. And it's definitely not just like, you know, a less expensive version of DIC or something like that. So here is a bunch of cyanobacteria. Phase contrast, we can still see the color of it, but maybe if we go here, oops. And then bring our iris down. Here we can see the lovely green, the lovely kind of bluish green of the cyanobacteria. And we have a little, I think this is a tiny little testate amoeba here. Let's see, yeah, it's right on the underside of the cover glass. Ah, yes, and it's on the move. So this is an amoeba, and you know, often people think of amoebas as squishy little organisms without much of a shape, but there are many amoeboid organisms which actually build themselves little shells called tests, and therefore they are called testate amoeba. And so you can see this one is scooching around ever so slowly. It's quite a small one. It's unusual. Gordon is asking about preparing slides and to give them more room. So what I do, and this is a technique which was I found in one of Feisner's books, is I take the cover glass and I use a toothpick to apply a little dab of Vaseline in each corner of the cover glass. And that allows you to sort of squish it down variably. You know, so when you first put it down, it won't squish all the way down, and then you can kind of delicately squish it down over time. Oh, look at this amoeba doing something here. And so yeah, for this sample, like I deliberately, I was very careful when I was pipetting out organisms to not get any like sand grains or anything like that. And but I knew I had these larger rotifers on there, and so to avoid squishing the rotifers, I used the Vaseline. And I forgot about this. Yeah, we saw this guy at the end of the Twitch stream. More of this predatory ciliate that we watched for a long time and never saw it eat anything. And so I think this is, well, maybe it's not, it's related to Dileptus for sure. This is a predatory ciliate on the prowl. There's actually a few of them. Okay. Then Eric asks, how is the image with phase objectives? Okay, so we're at the 20x right now. So this is a 20x S-Plan Apo. And here I'll just go over to the 20x D-Plan Apo phase. And so I do think you can see there is like still sort of a phase effect kind of around the filaments there. So there is some kind of effect even without the phase annulus, which actually makes a lot of sense because the phase annulus itself is just a you know, it's just essentially a patch stop. There's no like fancy stuff going on down there. So when you're using bright field, that's just you know, like the phase is just like a subset of bright field. So it makes sense we still get a little bit of contrast modulation here. Again, you can just see how this this is the phase contrast objective, and then here is the just the normal bright field objective, and you can see that it's considerably brighter as well for the same exposure. So yeah, I wouldn't necessarily want to use. You definitely could, but I wouldn't necessarily want to use my phase objectives as bright field objectives. Okay, so yes, we have this bad boy here. Oh yeah, Paramecium bursaria. That's funny you mention it. You know, it took me a long time to find P. bursaria, and then I started finding them like all the time. It's funny how it works. You know, there will be like certain organisms that are very common for other people and rare for you, but just keep hunting. Don't stop hunting, and you will find new stuff all the time. Maybe not always what you're looking for, but you'll find stuff. See what else we got. Oh, this looks like something maybe hatched out of a cyst. Like a little collapse there. This little guy here is pretty common find for a lot of people. This is Eurocentrum turbo, and Eurocentrum turbo has a tiny little thread that hangs off the back of it that it sort of spins on while it feeds on ostensibly bacteria. And then we have another one of these little hypertrick boys. And there's our rotifer. Make sure there should be enough water on this slide, but sort of flowing down. Okay, that should be good. And let's see what else we got. Ah, this is is it a Loxodes? Yeah, I think it's a little Loxodes. Yeah. Loxodes, also predatory ciliate. It's it'll wrap its little like ice cream scoop head around things that it wants to eat. Oh, I got a bunch of these little doodads here. That usually means I squished something. Maybe not. Rotifers. Oh yeah, here's the corner of the slide, and this is the Vaseline, actually. And the Vaseline has a surprisingly strong birefringence. It has a pretty incredible polarization response. So I think this is made of of interesting little like particles, little like sort of almost shard like particles. You can get some pretty cool effects. Looks like a topographical map. This is new imagery from Mars or something. Okay. There's something. Remember what else did I put on this slide? There are definitely a few more things. What do we got here? Ah, this is loxophyllum. I think these are also predatory, but I've never seen them eat anything. There's definitely a tradition on this channel, by the way, of like, you know, watching something, having no idea that it's predatory, and then all of a sudden it eats something. You're like, oh my god. Here we are at the 40x objective. A little hazy for some reason. I didn't get some water on this or something. Maybe it's just oh, it's actually kind of deep in here. That's why. Yeah, this thing's just on the bottom. There it is. Yeah, it just sharpens up when it comes to the surface. Okay. Yeah, my 40x objective is extremely sensitive to cover glass thickness and specimen depth, and so it has a correction collar on it that I can tune. So right now it's tuned to look at things that are immediately below the cover glass. So if I really wanted to get a good look at this critter, what I would do is squish down the Vaseline even more and really just try to like create a very, very, very thin film that only this organism can exist between. But then I would smash our rotifer friends, and I don't want to do that. These are really cool though. It's interesting, like the other thing too, I guess this is worth mentioning, is like yeah, this is cool when you see the side view. You tend to get this idea in your head when you're looking at ciliates in the microscope, especially if you're not using a technique like DIC, that they're just kind of flat. That's not true for all ciliates. Some ciliates have like very interesting three-dimensional shapes. Now this one though is one that's pretty darn close to totally flat. Same with the Loxodes. Yeah, these interesting little deposits there. Go back to the 10x. Continue hunting around. There's our Ciliates. Oh, Ciliates is eating something. Ciliates, I think, is eating one of those little flagellates. Yeah. These things Ciliates are really interesting as well. They're sort of an armor-plated ciliate, and they will eat whatever they can. They have little stinging organelles, little tentacles, stinging tentacles, and they'll also scavenge dead organisms. So I've seen them like feeding on dying worms before as well. Hey Thomas, this is DIC. Yeah, I don't use oblique on my BH2. I could if I wanted to, but it would just be a lot more setup, and I get better results with DIC. So no need. Got some diatoms here. I don't know what species. These aren't alive anymore, but I don't know if these are Planaria or not. They got that kind of subgrid there. Well, this is interesting. This little tube here. I don't think it's occupied. There are rotifers that build like little mud tubes. Here's some ciliate cast off its cilia, or those are what are they called? Trichocysts in the Paramecium? I forget. But there are rotifers that actually build like little mud tubes, and I managed to suck up one of those one time. It's actually in my Journey of the Microcosmos review. One of the clips at the very beginning has me following around one of those rotifers inside of the tube. And that's pretty interesting. So keep an eye out even on just stuff that looks like debris. Sometimes it's actually not debris. Whoa. That is extraordinarily green. That's got to be plastic, right? Let's see. So we can investigate that by doing a little birefringence check on this. We'll pop that down there. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That is very birefringent. Oh, extremely, actually. Yeah. Wow. Well, that's interesting. Some little green plastic shard there. Looks like radioactive. Yeah, polarized light microscopy. Also useful for checking out microplastics. It's wild. Pull-ups there. I want to see some of these other. I think I got a couple different predatory ciliates on here. That's diatoms. It's Fragalaria. I'm just like, okay, where are these at? I think there were at least 3 of them. There's one, but I think that's the same one we were looking at before. More paramecium. More paramecium. I'm going kind of fast now. I'm aware of this. I'm trying to cover a lot of ground to not give things too much time to like sneak around back from where I was before. Oh, hey, here's another Rotifer. She's pretty active. Okay, we'll remember her. I'll tell you, the slide gets really big when you're at magnifications. Oh, this Rotifer is seems to be totally pulled back. Whoa! I wonder if it's in if it's sort of going into like a hibernation state. It's almost like tied itself into a little bag, like a little trash bag. See, I see a trophy down there at the bottom, or Mastax down there at the bottom, and I think there's another one in there. So I think this Rotifer also has a baby. I don't know if this is what they look like before they shed or what. It is certainly unusual. Once again, you know, I do this I do microscopy all the time, and I still pretty regularly come across stuff that I just have no idea what I'm looking at. And that's one of the great things about the hobby, is that it's pretty much never ending in terms of learning and intrigue and all that. I don't know, maybe when I'm 50 years old, I'll have seen everything. Seen everything there is to see. Every single microorganism. How long could it possibly take to see every single one? Let's see, where is that other Rotifer at? Somewhere around here. Maybe farther over here. She could have moved on a little bit. Sometimes these Rotifers, they can transform their mouth parts into like a swimming apparatus and actually cover quite a lot of ground in a short period. Oh, what's that? Oh, they're Coleps feeding on something. This is actually sort of interesting. Yeah, these coleops are interested in whatever this little bit of debris here is. Maybe it's like a little piece of bacterial biofilm or something. Okay. Let's see if we can find that other rotifer. He was pretty big, pretty chunky. Oh, there's a nice big Loxodes there. Loxodes very flat. Check that out later. There's our little tuft of cyanobacteria. Oh, how'd that rotifer escape? Ah, there she is. I think that's the same one. So here it is. This is the 10x objective. This here, get a curler going. And yeah, this is what this is 10x objective. So if you're buying if you just bought a new microscope and you had the same kind of rotifer, this is what you might see before you do any filtering or anything like that. Ah, and yes, this one also has a little baby rotifer inside of her. It's always really helpful to have those eyes. You can see the other pair of eyes very clearly. So you don't need DIC or anything like that to see pregnant rotifers. Lovely little critter. I think this might be Rotaria tardigrada, by the way. I always remember that they're the pretty large rotifers. Oh, you can see the foot here. The foot kind of grabbing onto the cover glass. Go to the 40X. And there's the little baby. Let's bring it down even a little bit more. You can kind of see the or where the mouth would open up. It's interesting, these haven't really transformed on us yet. Oh, I can see the flame cell down there as well. Just barely see it when it's Point being, you know, differential interference contrast does make things look very cool. But it is not necessarily critical for this is really interesting, actually. I get like this is just the polarizers without the this is without any lower prism, and I actually get a pretty good effect. Very interesting. And the lower prism just kind of gives me better contrast. Huh. Curious. You can see this, how those the foot just like shoots out there. And these things can adhere surprisingly strongly. They're difficult to pipette up because they can hold. You know, even if you like stick the nozzle of the pipette right next to them and like give them the full suction, they can hang on. Sometimes you gotta nudge them off. Oh, that's cool. You can see the sort of the mechanics of how this foot works. It's almost like those toys. I don't know if anyone's gonna know what I'm talking about. Those little water-filled toys that are they're like plastic. They're water-filled, and they're like a little like toroid shape, and they're kind of like difficult to hold on to. They tend to like slip out of your hand. I think kind of the same idea is going on with these feet here, where they're rolling up. The outer membrane is like rolling up on the toes. And this is just another fun thing with microscopy, is you can just sort of get these insights that you would never really. Oh wow! You're unlikely to read about a paper or a book or something like that, of just like the mechanics of a rotifer and its general behaviors and what it looks like when it's moving around. Really understand what's going on with these creatures. Wow, check out the cilia on that snout. And baby, again, just like reaching way up in there. I wish he'd open up and transform for us. Maybe. Doesn't seem like it. Oh, there's a. Oh, it's a white euglenoid. These are kind of unusual. So most euglena are photosynthetic protists, but there are a few that don't have chloroplasts. And so they have to be heterotrophs. Awesome. That's really cool to see. You can see, just like other euglenids, this thing has a red eye spot. It's kind of it's bulldozing its way into this this debris here. Wow. Maybe it's searching for some food. So these, this one should be pretty easy to identify. Famous last words. Let's see. I don't know if it's actually in Weissner. I see some that are kind of similar. Yeah, I'll have to look it up later. But that is pretty distinct. We can figure out which one that is. That's pretty cool though. Those are a little more uncommon than the typical euglenids. Paranema you see pretty frequently. Paranemas are cool too. I like them a lot. Or at least I see it fairly frequently. I don't know. I don't want to speak for everybody. I wonder what all these little... That's an interesting little formation there. Maybe these are little... these are like adhering to streaks or something. Yeah, Sydney asked what I use to identify. So, yeah, if you go to the microscopy subreddit, so that's r/microscopy, I have a whole list of identification resources there that I put together with the help of the other mods of microscopy subreddit. And pretty much everything that's in there is what I use. Kind of one of the big ones, the book that I always have right next to me is Sphagnum Ponds of Simmelried in Germany by Kreutz and Feissner. And it's free online. There's a free PDF. It's the very first link in my ID resources post. But you can also get a hard copy on Amazon, which I have found to be tremendously useful because it's just easier to kind of flip through a book than scroll through a PDF. I don't know. After a while, it's structured pretty in a pretty straightforward manner, and so once you kind of learn like where stuff is in relation to other stuff, you can kind of quickly flip to the pages that you want. another resource. I don't actually use it, but another resource that a lot of people use is iNaturalist. iNaturalist is like this. I guess it's like a Creative Commons project where you can upload pictures and people of like critters and stuff, and people will identify them. And if you're not sure what something is, you can always post it there and maybe get a good ID. Oh yeah, here we go. Haha. So the other one I wasn't sure. This is definitely Dileptus. One of the most brutal, voracious, predatory ciliates that there is. It really reminds me a lot of like a squid. Yeah, long there. Look at that mouth. And look at that. And let's see, turn around for us. Show us that mouth again. Yeah, right there at the base of that tentacle. That tentacle has stinging organelles, and when that whacks into another ciliate, it will give them a nice sting, and then it will swallow them up. Or if the ciliate's too big and it isn't immediately killed by the sting, it can rip off a huge chunk of the ciliate, and then it'll eat the chunk. Ooh, Lacrimaria over Dileptus. Ooh. I'll say Lacrimaria Olor are pretty cool to watch. But they're kind of small, you know? Dileptus is a real monster. Dileptus I can pick out with my stereoscope very easily. And these things will just absolutely ruin the day of any ciliate they encounter. Actually, if you go on my... hold on a second. Sorry, I had to do a little sneeze there. If you go into my Twitch, if you look at my old clips, one of my top clips is called Dileptus Attacks. I got a good video of a Dileptus ripping off a piece of another ciliate. Whoa! That thing can move. The mouth on Dileptus is just so like incredible to me. Like a lot of ciliates have kind of mouths, you know, oral grooves that aren't tremendously like distinctive, and then Dileptus just has this like very obvious like, yes, this is what I used to eat. I'm curious if that mouth has a polarization response at all. The nasilid ciliates, their Certos oral apparatuses have a pretty cool polarization response, as I learned recently. So we might try to slam this boy with a little polarized light, see what happens. Never a bad idea. Never a bad idea to just kick it in polarized light. Wow, these things are so cool. And I love also just the predatory ciliates have such a unique movement. They look pretty sinister, I think, in just the way that they move. Oy. Let's try to make sure we don't completely lose this thing. We already did. Oh, there it is. Okay. I get my analyzer out of here. Pop in the polarizer. Survey says, okay, we got just a couple little crystals inside of this thing. Does not look like we have very serious, significant polarization response from the mouth. Good to know. Maybe you can just barely see it. Ah, good, Marcos. You'll really like it. You know, it's paperback, but it's actually the photos inside are very nice quality. It's a very nice printing. And like I said, like just keep it keep it by you at all times while you're scoping, because a lot of times it's easier to, you know, have, you know, go back and forth between your scope and the reference when you're trying to figure things out. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, if there were more ciliates here, I would watch Dileptus for a while. Here's a paramecium. I can tell it's a paramecium just because of its. Wait, I better be right about this. Paramecium, yes. Wait, no, maybe a paramecium, but not P-cauditum. Or is it? Maybe it is. I don't know. I don't know. It's got a different kind of shape to it. And it's got some, yeah. I think that's P-cauditum. Maybe it's just kind of an odd shaped one. Maybe I just don't look at them that often in partially polarized light. I don't know. What are you? Potentially a new find. Go back to DIC. Pop this in here. And it's kind of getting close to that Dileptus. We might not have a whole lot of time to figure out what this thing is before it gets eaten. Yeah. I think it's just... Wouldn't be surprised if it's a paramecium. But that is not P-cauditum. That's cool. I don't think I've ever actually seen this ciliate before. It's got a real interesting like profile there. It's very narrow in one orientation. Oh, what a curious little critter this is. Oh, it's got a diatom that it's carrying around. It's a really interesting little shape. This reminds me of like a maple seed or something like that. Another little ciliate there. Huh. What a beaut. And it has like such a fun little way of swimming around too. Maybe that's why I'm thinking maple seed or something, or like a leaf. It's like just sort of falls and drifts chaotically. Well, maybe if I remember, I can post this clip on somewhere where there's ciliate experts. I lost it. I'm gonna try to go to the 40x here. Sometimes, well, we got dial up this at least. I dial up this anyway. There's that guy. Rotifer, maybe a little squished. Go. Sorry about that. I feel like we probably lost all of our ciliates here. Well, anyway, oh, good, Sydney. Glad to hear it. You guys are gonna love that book. That book is like just such a mainstay. Well, anyway, I was thinking we've been going for almost 3 hours now, 2 hours 45 minutes or so. So I was thinking of calling it a night. Thanks so much. It's great to see some new faces in the chat, on the Discord, everywhere. And you know, if you're watching the VOD and you got all the way here, well, thank you so much for watching this long. And yeah. And again, I will be I'm making it official. I'm going to be streaming every week, Sundays at 8 PST, and so y'all can come check me out. And yeah, there's our leftist renegade. Hey sis, how you doing? You lurking? Okay, y'all. Have a good night.